Namo Adira Phat. Thanks so much for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This wonderful sound calls us back to our true home. The fourth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I vow to cultivate loving speech and deep listening in order to bring joy and happiness to others and to relieve others of their suffering. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I'm determined to speak truthfully with words that inspire self-confidence, joy, and hope. I will not spread news I do not know to be certain, and will not criticize or condemn things of which I am not sure. I will refrain from uttering words that can cause division or discord, or that can cause the family or the community to break. I'm determined to make all efforts to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. For our Dharma lessons, we've been reading Abundant, Exalted, Immeasurable by Ajahn Pasanno. And we're continuing in Chapter 5, Questions and Answers. Question. As a guilt-ridden American, I can't quite comprehend how to respond without guilt when I have caused harm, even inadvertently. Could you walk through the non-guilt-oriented mental process of a person who has harmed or caused inconvenience to someone else? I'm thinking of the monk who falsely accused Sariputta. If that were me, I would practically have to leave the Sangha out of embarrassment and shame. Answer. It's essentially answered in the way the Buddha responded when the monk made the confession. I falsely accused Sariputta, and then asked for forgiveness. The Buddha said, it's recognizing one's faults as faults, one's unskillful action as unskillful action, and wishing to make amends. Pardon me. That is growth in the Noble One's discipline. That in itself is the difference. Recognizing that we all make mistakes, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, we have the opportunity to reestablish ourselves in that which is skillful, appropriate, in accordance with truth. Nobody is exempt. Remorse, from a Buddhist perspective, says, I really missed my shot on that, and that was unskillful. And there is an impetus to change. In Pali, there is the word hiri atapa. Hiri is a sense of conscience or embarrassment toward an action done in the past. Otapa is a concern for future wrongdoing. It's interesting when you say it in English because early translators use shame and fear of wrongdoing. And what comes up in our minds is that these are heavy, negative states, whereas in the Pali language, these are actually wholesome mental states in the way that mental states are categorized. In Pali, it's called kusala. Intrinsic to kusala, or a wholesome mental state, is a sense of well-being, clarity, and discernment. It's having the clarity to recognize that is really unbecoming and not in accord with how I really want to be. So it would be better for me to step back from that, rather than, oh my God, I did this, and what are people going to think of me? I can't show my face around here anymore. That spins around me and the problems I've created, me and my awfulness. That in itself is the problem. The recognition of that which is unskillful has a very wholesome, protective quality. Also, in the Pali language, when that quality of conscience or concern toward wrongdoing is described, the underlying state of the mind regarding hiri is one of respect for ourselves, in the sense that we do not want to do something that would be inappropriate, or not in accord with our values and deepest intentions. Otapa arises out of respect for others because we recognize that, as human beings, we're in the same boat of being subject to birth, aging, sickness, death. We have a mixture of wholesome and unwholesome qualities. There is a fundamental respect for other beings, and therefore we don't want to harm anybody else either. Both qualities are underpinned by an underlying respect. The quality of guilt does not give oneself due respect. It undermines our own wholesome qualities. It's really interesting to reflect on the Buddha's statement that the recognition of our unskillful actions is a sign of growth in the Noble One's teachings and training. It's the actions that speak louder than the perception of individuality. That's what tends to govern our sense of who we are, the perception of individuality rather than a recollection of the intentions and actions that we rely on. What do we do on a habitual basis? How do we make our decisions? There are very few Buddhist meditators whose lives are committed to stealing, dishonesty, harming, and violence. It's pretty rare, but the perception is not in accord with the real actions. Rather, the perception is often driven by guilt. So it's important to be able to separate that out, to say, well, actually, I'm committed to integrity, to that which is good. I'm going to shrink back from things that are unskillful. Also, anybody can make a mistake and miss their shot. A person has the opportunity to recognize that and reestablish him or herself in what is skillful. There are several occasions in the scriptures where we might think that the Buddha really messed up. It doesn't come across that the Buddha was agonized with guilt and struggling. It's more like, that didn't work. I'll try it this way instead. One of the things that's very helpful to do when recognizing that we have missed our shot is asking for forgiveness and seeking reconciliation. It's not that difficult to do, and it's very healing. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Namo Adira Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.